Yo, what's good? What's good? What's good? Give me some claps in here, man. Yo, what's good? It's your boy Lo, man. We are back for another episode of The World According to Lo, and I am so excited to be here for another week. Today is episode 81. 81, that's right. We are in episode 81, and man, are we moving our way towards what will be 100 episodes. So I'm super excited. I'm super I feel like I'm morphing into a version of myself, and we're going to talk about this today. I feel like I'm morphing into a version of myself that is becoming the full unadulterated me. And a lot of us get through things, we go through life, and we always shy away from who we really are, from everything that's within us. And it is because of that, right, that we often don't hit the marks. But we're going to talk about that in a second, man. I want to ask you how your day's going. I want to see how things are progressing in your world, right? Because it is the podcast is The World According to Lo, but it doesn't have to be just about me. I want you to learn how to get into your own world, how to get into the things that allow you to thrive and to manifest what it is that you want in your life. And those things matter. And because of that, you can come to a place like this and, I'll support you. I want you to see you thrive. I want to see you, become all you can be. And yeah, man, we're going to have a great conversation tonight. I've been on the road. And I want you guys to know that, I've missed our time together. Podcasting for me is something that I feel has become a part of me, not because I was necessarily seeking it, but because it was something that I felt like attracted itself to me or attached itself to me because of my love for storytelling, because of my love for people. And if you're ever considering doing a podcast, podcasting is something that I can help walk you through. Podcasting is something that I can help you understand, navigate, and thrive in. If you're wondering like what all I do with podcasting. I actually host a podcast over at Singing River Health System entitled Healthcare is Self-Care, the podcast. And we talk about healthcare and self-care in a candid conversation way. Now, because of that, it allows me to, and I want to say this because when I was tasked to start a podcast on healthcare at Singing River, I had no idea like how challenging it would be. One, I didn't know, I didn't go to medical school. I didn't have a background in anything healthcare besides the marketing part. And because of that, it pulled on me in a way that caused me to really have to study how do you have a communication or a conversation that people want to sit down and listen to. And because of that, here we are today, a year. I just made a year. With that, we are the premier healthcare podcast in our area. And now we have set a tone for other corporations to follow suit. So podcasting for me is something that I've become a very adamant student about. It's something that I've learned how to hit my head. I've learned how to avoid a lot of mistakes. And then that's the healthcare self-care one. I also am a host on Mixed Messages from the Doghouse, where I sit down with two of my best friends and we talk about really life from a man's perspective. And it is based in a way that is oftentimes neglected or not really heard. So we tackle a lot of things. We also cover a lot of things with our fraternity. And then there's this podcast as well. But I also am a host on the Landmass Collective. And as you can see, those are the things that I'm personally involved in. But I also produce other podcasts that we're launching on the BEPS network. Now, you know, how can podcasts serve you? I want to just take time to help this because I get approached a lot about podcasting. And podcasting is something that could grow into so many added value perspectives of what you need for your brand, your business. It allows you to talk directly to your audience. It allows you to use it as a platform of therapy. Like a lot of times talking to you guys and sharing with you guys, interviewing people often feeds me. And I want to say this because when you're getting into conversation is a give and take. A lot of times people start podcasts because they feel like they have something to say, but it's not just having something to say. It's also having the ability to listen, right? Because if you're the only one speaking in the conversation, oftentimes people won't hang around to hear what you got to say for long. That's why I always like to invite you to put yourself into this conversation. Even now, what are you thinking? Can this apply to your life? What am I saying that can make you better? Now, if you haven't, go subscribe. Just check those platforms out, those podcasts I'm involved with. But today I wanna kick off. And you know what? Guys, listen. I have been neglecting my intro and I have to do better. So we're going to do the intro and then we're going to get into this podcast. Okay. Yeah, I want to do that way. So here we go. Come on. And let's go. Let's go. And it goes, it's gonna be a good show. It's the world according to Lo. Hey. So let's sit and grow. It's gonna be a good show. That's right. Episode 81. And I titled this episode, How Bad Do You Want It? We're gonna get into this. I'm not gonna be on long because I really want to talk about this. I have been going through a transformation And normally I show y'all the trailer of what I'm doing, whatnot. You can go check it out on my YouTube, because tonight I want to get straight to it. I don't want this to be a long podcast. I want it to be an impactful one. And I've been losing weight. I've been working out consistently, and I'm looking at my body start to change. I'm looking at my mind respond to the challenges, the constant challenge of having to be broken and then rebuild. There's something about that just, like, it really aligns your mind, your body, your spirit, and your being overall. And I'm noticing that there are parts of me that are becoming less comfortable with things that are stagnant in my life. What do you mean, Lo? What do you mean? Talk to me. What do you mean? Because you have my attention. Like, where are you going with this? A lot of times we go through life where we are literally okay with stagnation or things not moving in our lives. In my own career, I find myself now longing for more fulfillment, longing for the ability to really express all of this being that I am, my creativity, not just my creativity, the value of my presence, my ability to connect and marry myself to a vision of who I'm working with. I told someone recently that there are a lot of times that people can render a service, right? Because I'm often asked, what makes you different from other videographers or creatives, whatever the case may be? And for a while, I used to try to compare myself to other people. But then I realized, and I became comfortable with the notion that God made me a unique copy. You cannot find another me. So I begin to tell people that what you get from being or working with me is low. If you could go buy me somewhere else, I would be on a shelf. I would be available somewhere, and you can't. See, we all are unique in our own ways. And we all have something of that uniqueness that we bring to the table. But it goes back to what I said earlier. How bad do you want it? See, I look at the internet now and everybody just copies everybody. To be a person of uniqueness, to be a person who does not follow trends, is oftentimes a road less traveled. It feels good to be accepted. It feels good to be in a place where we feel like everybody is doing what we're doing. Don't get me wrong. I understand. The power of inclusion is something that we all seek to feel daily. But at what cost? One of my favorite scriptures is Galatians 6:9, right? And it says, don't be weary or don't get tired in well-doing. For in due season or in time, you will reap, or you would have returned to you something if you faint not, if you do not get tired in whatever it is you're doing. A lot of us get tired because if it's not quick, if it's not fast, if it's not easy, we don't want it. If it's not handed to us, we think we're no longer worthy of that value. Your value does not change based on how much you're handled or how many people interact with you. See, the thing that we got to realize is a Rolls Royce can sit on a lot for years. A Rolex can sit in the countertop for years and never loses value. Because what makes us up is what makes us unique. You can't just go buy a Rolex. There's things called knockoffs, but when they are tested, they often come up short. And a lot of times that's like who we are. I remember when I first started on my creative journey, I had nothing. I was in a market that did not want me. I had a market that saw no value of my skills, my abilities, my desire to grow, my loyalty. And I had to go elsewhere. I had to spend money. I had to travel. I had to sacrifice much. A lot of times what seemed like to get little in return. Imagine driving 9-10 hours to a market to work for a weekend, and all you return home with are handshakes and open promises and business cards. Nobody at events were giving out guarantees of work. Nobody was saying, hey, we're going to sign you right now for this upcoming conference that we're doing where you can come do video production, or, hey, we're going to sign you right now. We're going to pay you up front for something that you could do. Nobody was doing that. How bad do you want it? And I'll be transparent, there have been countless nights where I sat in my house, in my studio, this very studio you see right now, and cried because I just could not comprehend why I could be doing everything in my power to grow and scale, but yet I never saw the results that I thought would come with constantly, repeatedly showing up and doing what other people would not. Sometimes we don't know when opportunity will knock. Sometimes we don't know when someone watches us without our knowing. I'm going to go back to Galatians 6:9. It says, do not be weary in well doing. Don't get tired, because in time you will reap. If gives us a conjunction or an additive or a requirement of the previous statement. You will reap if you faint not, if you do not get tired of what you're doing. That's good. Oftentimes we want promotions. Oftentimes we want our relationships to be a certain way. And I often tell my wife, even in our relationship, we celebrate 20 years this year of marriage, right? We've been together almost 25 years of our lives together. I feel like I'm now becoming a man that I am proud to give her. I feel like I've learned a lot from these 20 something years. You know, they say to be great at something, it takes 10,000 hours. We often think we're going to be great at relationships or great at a skill set by just showing up. I was that guy. I thought by just showing up a lot of times that it was enough. But a lot of times it's not. A lot of times we want validation to be the key and the result to us moving forward and forging ahead. Validation, compliments, all of these things are what they call ear service. I like to call it ear service. They only serve your ears and your ego. I want you to think about that. What does a compliment and lip service really provide you on your journey? Let's do an exercise. Hey, you. Oh my God, you're amazing. Do you know how incredible you are? I saw your skill set and your work and I was blown away. I've never met anyone like you. You are amazing. Now, you could hear that and it can feel good. It can make you feel more uplifted. It can even be all the things you need to be encouraged, right? But what did it change about your journey and about what you have to do to be better? I want you to think about this because we can't be confused about what it really takes for us to transform into the people or the beings that we want to be. I'm going through that transformation right now. It hurts. For lack of a better word, it sucks. There are oftentimes I was in the gym earlier today, right before the podcast, and I missed a couple of days of just being in the gym because I was out of town, and it kicked my butt. Progress has no concern or care about our excuses. I work with some phenomenal people, and I love one thing I love about being a producer is that I get to see people go from one point of being to another, right? So if you produce a show, if I produce a product with them, a visual, whatever the case is, we start with it being an idea. Then we progress through producing it, meaning that we have to make sure this is in place, these things are in place, and we got to keep doing that till all the ingredients come together to have a final product. Throwing a bunch of ingredients in your kitchen does not make a meal. I really want to make this as plain as possible because we got to stop going through life where we are imagining that someone is going to make the meals for us. Not in our self journey and progress. I remember being at an age where I was very loved. I don't like to say spoiled, but some people would call it spoiled. I was overly loved, right? And I remember like, man, my mom's from the country. So my mother would cook these elaborate dinners and meals. Like we would get home from school. She would have things in place where like the smell of the house met you at the door. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about, where you walked up to your house or your big mama's house or somebody's situation, right? And when you got to the doorknob, you could just smell the love of what she was preparing at the door. I had that my entire life. And as I worked out and I became an athlete and I kept growing, my appetite became more than just what my mother prepared. I want you to stick with me on this story. My mother would prepare these meals based on what she considered a normal appetite for her children. But then in my self growth, not because of what she was doing, me doing 2 workouts a day, me having practice, me being at school, I needed more for myself than what my mother provided. Sometimes that's the friends in our lives. Sometimes that's the people we work with. Sometimes that's people that serve us in specific ways in our lives, right? And I'll never forget the day I walked in and I was upset because I was still hungry. And what my mother prepared did not meet my expectations or my appetite. My mother, in her loving, always loving response, said, son, well, it seems like you need to get in there and fix yourself something else. See, she taught me that people are only required to do unto you what they are comfortable doing. If you need more for yourself than what you may see provided, it's time to fix it for yourself. I'm almost out of here on this podcast. Episode 81, man. 81. We're in a stratosphere of podcasters casting where most podcasts do not get to this point. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Galatians 6 and 9. Don't be weary. Don't give up when you're doing well. Some of us know when you're doing well. How do you know? How do I know, Lo, when I'm doing well? How do I know that I'm doing it the right way? How do I know that I'm doing it in a way that is not harming anyone, that is not detrimental to anything, but it's just me doing it the right way? How do I know? Because it becomes less about you and more about the thing you're pursuing. And if that thing you're pursuing is of good intention or good will, it will cost you more sacrifice than self-serving actions. When you think about what it means to be a humanitarian, when you think about what it means to be a person who gives, they oftentimes do more for others than they do for themselves. Think about a person in your mind right now who you say and you know to always, right, be a giving person. They feed the community. They give rides to people who need to go to work. They serve others. They do more for something or someone else more than they do for themselves. They could buy a new car, but then they couldn't help so-and-so's family thrive and eat and do whatever, or they wouldn't have the extra funds to pay those school lunches that they know Miss Jackson's kids need because Miss Jackson can't do it. All these things. They're the person who brings the creamer to the office because they know nobody else is buying it. But when there's creamer, everybody works a lot better and there's a lot more joy in the office. They're that person who always thinks about others more than they think about themselves. How do I know that I'm doing it the right way and in a good measure? When you aren't thinking about you, but you're thinking about the thing that you're doing. See, in my transformation journey, when I started in January, when I was focusing on how uncomfortable working out made me feel, I struggled. When I started thinking about what this struggle was doing for my children, for my wife, for my loved ones, for my growth and my ability to serve others by being healthy, by being in shape, by not having to have illnesses that would seek me out had I not changed my behavior, had I not worked out, I started to see less pain and resistance and more growth. See, there's things that come along with doing it consistently and for the right reasons. There's a thing called stamina. Your stamina increases. Your ability to process and think, not only in good times, but when things are at their worst. Marines and people in the military don't train for peaceful times. They train for times where everything is going wrong. How do I make a hospital in the middle of a ditch where there's bombs going around and bullets whizzing through the air? How do we fix a tire when there's no gas station or Pep Boys anywhere around us? How do we ration food when we have to pack light, but we all need to eat and drink water? We train for the worst, but we expect the best. I ask you again, how bad do you want what you said at the top of this year? Today is March 20th, which means that we are in the third month of 2023. Some of you started very enthusiastic. You started out being very solid in your attempt to not be weary in well doing. Some of us are fainting. Some of us are on the cusp of giving up when it's right there. The biggest thing I love about this journey that I'm on is that I said this earlier to one of my good friends. I said, I feel like I'm coming out of my cocoon finally, where I'm no longer shying away from who I am. And I'm speaking to the value that I bring. This podcast is not something that you should just disregard and tune in when you want. It's not something that serves me and my ego. I've been through a lot of things in my life. I've had a lot of scenarios that I've had to overcome. And I realized that because of that, God has trusted me with people because he knows I genuinely love folks. I genuinely love to see people at their best. You don't find that often. You don't find it where somebody can literally see you at your state you're in and help you navigate where you should be. One thing about me is that I've learned to be disciplined in things that are uncomfortable. How bad do you want it? There's still time in this year, man. I hate when people say that, y'all ain't, you started, you said you was going to do something in January. Now look at you. You ain't working out. You ain't walking no more. A lot of people want to say the doubt that you could live in. One of my favorite poems is by a poet called Edgar Allan Guest. I want to say that's right. Edgar Allan Guest. And I think the title of the poem is It Couldn't Be Done. Part of it is someone said that it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he wouldn't say it until he tried, right? There's always naysayers around us. There's always people who say it couldn't be done. But we got to step up and say that we tried. How bad do you want it? Every time I say that, I think about the times where I was getting things out of the mud. When I tell you, staying up endless nights, studying, preparing myself for when opportunity knocked. I want you to be encouraged because we feed ourselves with so much stuff that does not help us grow. You on the internet, you watching this, people fighting, you watching people argue, gossip about this, gossip about that. And then we wonder why we are not progressing forward. And if you are not a person who really wants to see change in your life, listen, I love you. God bless you. But until you are ready to see change, then this podcast is just going to be a waste of your time. I'm tired of being the version of myself that is not who I truly am. And I'm telling y'all this, I'm being transparent because this is the world according to Low. I don't want you to think that I got it all together because I don't. I got to stop shying away from who and what I am. I didn't know why I started podcasting. See, I learned about podcasting early on when Apple first started it. I think it was like 2002, 2004 when I was in Berkeley, getting my degree with them. And I learned about podcasting. It was something that they started. It wasn't all the cool stuff that it looks like now. It was more like journalism and people having conversations about things in the news that could be a longer conversation. I learned that back in 04, like 03, from 2001 to 2004, I was learning about podcasts. And then back then it was an enhanced podcast where you could add like media files, like pictures. And I didn't understand why that seed was planted in me all that time ago. But when I look at our society now, and I look at how many of us are struggling to become who we are meant to be, how many of us are no longer loyal to our dreams because we have allowed someone to come in and to disconnect us from it. We have harbored words of negativity that takes us away from the energy that we should be giving first to ourselves, then to others. I want to encourage you, man. Galatians 6:9. Do not be weary in well doing. Do not be weary when you're doing a purposeful thing. For in due season, in time, you will reap. You will see the things you want in your life. You will see, like me, I love seeing my body go down. Some of those love handles are shrinking. But I won't see that if I give up. You are equipped with everything that you need to go forward in this life, to be the person that you know is within you, to launch that business, to launch that brand, to continue your business, continue your brand, write your book, whatever your thing is, to start that community service 501c3, to help those single moms, to help those lost children, whatever your thing is. I want to encourage you, man, like to not give up hope. If you ever get down, remember Galatians 6:9. It carries me daily. I want us all to grow together, man. I want all of us to finish the race that was set before us. When you open your eyes as a child, you started your race. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want to see it happen in your lifetime? The last thing I want to do is be on my bed in my old age full of regret. I hope this podcast encouraged you today. I hope it gave you some hope. I hope it gave you something that will allow you to grow and thrive, man. I appreciate you pulling up, man. Listen to my Patreons, my loyalty crew over on Patreon. I love you, man. Thank you guys for your support. If you want to check that out, the links are in the bio description below. Hey, man, I love you. God bless you. Keep going. Don't give up. And until next time, man, listen, go do something good. Keep going. Don't give up. Don't give up the hope and the faith and all of that. We gonna make it, man. But I gotta get out of here, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Share this with somebody who needs to be encouraged. It ain't about me. It's about all of us helping each other, man. And until next time, I'll see you. Pray for your boy, man. Peace.